This is a mini book haul and slash mid-year reading update, I guess, because I did read a lot collectively throughout these months, but July was a little slow. It was really eventful because a lot was happening. I was talking to a potential adopter, and I'm going to finally get a dog, and she's gonna come in 2 weeks, and her name is Bambi. She's adorable. She's an indie dog, and we're rescuing her from this place. And yeah, it was my birthday, so I got a lot of books. So let's just talk about it. This is my book haul for my birthday, kind of. I already spoke about Blood Meridian. I had ordered it a while ago. I just started reading it. I have no comments as of now. Then I also bought Nausea by Jean-Paul Sartre. I've been meaning to read it, and I've heard that this is like, it's one of those existential books that just hits really different and it's really nice. So there's this. Another book I got from a friend on my birthday is Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas by Hunter S. Thompson. So we spoke about this book a few weeks ago, and then on my birthday I got this. So I'm like, very nice of him. Excited to read it. This is hilarious because my friend who stays in Bangalore was reading Infinite Jest, and obviously it took him like an extremely long time to read it. And I was just like, why would you read that? Like, I've heard it's such a polarizing book. Like, I'm sure it's good, but it's also like, why the hell would you read? Put yourself through this, you know? So really funny. We had a very funny conversation about it, and I texted him saying, hey, can you send this to me all the way from Bangalore? And he's like, why can't you just buy it? I was like, I can buy it, but this is not a book I want to own. It's just a book I physically want to read. So it was really cute because he sent this to me in my birthday week, like during my birthday week. And he was just like, I tried so hard to finish it before your birthday, so like you could get it as a gift. So that's really cute. I have Infinite Jest. It's gonna take a really long time to read this, but I'm really excited because I've heard it's good, but I've also heard that it's like, it just drags on. It's like, it's not good, but it's really good. Like, you know, I don't know, is it good or not? And the next book I got from my friend, which is just amazing, is The History of the World in 100 Plants. So we spoke about this book a really long time ago, and she has a physical copy of it, and I don't know how, but like we just never ended up exchanging it. It has the most beautiful illustrations ever, and it's just so gorgeous, and just like a part of the excerpt, which it's so nice. We eat the plants, we eat the eaters of plants, and plants fill the air with oxygen. Plants give us fuel. Plants allow us to live in cold places. The fossils of plants have powered the Industrial Revolution. Fossilized plants power the human civilization to this day. We depend on them as a junkie depends on the next fix. There's another part, and it's just like, we use roses to express love, lilies to express the idea of God, the Bodhi tree to express wisdom, and marigolds to express the hopes for life beyond death. We use plants to kill people, to heal people, to get stoned, to inspire great art. We have changed the world for plants, and to this day we wage war for plants. The history of humankind is the relationship between people and plants. With its powerful environmental message, the history of the world in 100 plants shows how plants are the life forms to which we are all indebted and none of us can escape. It's just so cool. So it takes us through like monumental changes that came along through plants, you know, as in the world as we know it today. So the first plant is the fig tree, which is in the strangler fig in Africa, and the second is wheat. So yeah, I'm really happy to be reading this, and I think it's a really nice coffee table book. Like obviously it's not fiction or anything, it's just something you'd maybe want to read like 2 plants a day, or like just browse while you're having your morning coffee. But it's amazing, and I would highly recommend this to anyone who loves reading about the nature of human existence in accordance with the nature around us. Yeah. Now let's talk about the books I read this year. I think, let's see, I've opened my Goodreads. I do prefer Fable over Goodreads, but I feel like the directory in Fable is limited compared to Goodreads. Like Goodreads has a lot of niche books that Fable doesn't have. Fable does have a lot of popular books, but not all kinds of books. So I think the first book I read in 2026 was, I'm opening my reading challenge. I think my reading challenge for 2026 is 30 books. Like, not insane. And I'm 15 of 30 books. Hey, that's pretty cool. Yeah, okay. So, my challenge data, books read. So, the first book I read is actually the book called Fishes. It's the Granada Guides Fishes book, and it's really cool. It reminds me of the Childcraft series, where, you know, Childcraft had this entire series of encyclopedias. I think there were like 20 volumes of just random things. So there was one for like geography, there was one for rocks, there was one for monumental historical things, there was one for dinosaurs. Yeah, it's just, Childcraft was amazing. But my friend was visiting a really nice bookstore, and then she saw this, and she knows I love fish and I have fish, so she got this for me. So this is a really cool book with just like information about fish and just like different types of fish and like really cool illustrations of fish. Also, like, this book told me something really crazy. Every goldfish that like exists to this day is actually a clone of another goldfish, because goldfish don't like procreate like other fish. I have to find it. It's so interesting. It's where'd it go? It's mad. Which, I mean, I would have never known that if I didn't read this. Okay, yeah. So in their original habitat, these females reproduce by pairing with other related fishes such as crucian carp and common carp. We're talking about goldfish. It might be expected that this would produce hybrids, fish with some characteristics of both parents, but in fact the mere presence of the male sperm causes the female cells to start dividing without fertilization taking place. So like, they're basically clones of the mom. So the males are not really the parents of the young fish. Goldfish are normally creatures of cold water, and they can even survive in winter in frozen ponds. But some goldfish have become adapted to much warmer weather. Anyway, that's crazy. So I think parthenogenesis, I think that's what it's called, where um, animals give birth to other like their young without fertilization. But I didn't like, I mean, that's a really cool, interesting fact. Like, I think that's the best fact I've found in this book. So yeah, 5 out of 5 stars to that book. Then I read Catabasis. Oh, this was so beautiful. Amazing book. Got it on Blinkit, super random. But I love Arif Kwang because I love Babel. And this is so dense because it's like rife with mythology but mathematical theorems. It's super random. So they're both, so our two main characters are magic theory doctorate students. They're both getting their PhDs in being magicians, but it's like all based on mathematics, and there's like a lot of reference to like all types of mythology. Like it talks about like the Vedas, but then it also goes to like Chinese theory, and then it also goes back to like Roman and Greek theory. Like it is, if you like Percy Jackson, I feel like you would love this book. It's just full of metaphors and just connections to things that we all know of, like as myths and legends, but then they're put in this like very weird theorem kind of way, and there's like a mathematical solution and reasoning to how they can literally get to the underworld. And they're basically going through the 7 phases of hell, like the 7 rings of hell, to get to where their professor is, because spoiler alert, she's the reason he's dead, but that's not true. Like it's just such a good book. And then it's a kind of a love story. Like there's an element of a love story in this, and I wish there was more of that because I would have loved to read it. But wow, this book is a journey and I really enjoyed it. It's like any of her other books because they are like long and drawn out. But if you enjoy those kind of books, I feel like Catabasis is a really good one. Then I read Heated Rivalry, of course. My friend sitting in Belgium got me hooked on to like the best and worst thing ever, Heated Rivalry. I feel like I have rewatched the show 100 times and I'm not exaggerating. The way I love this show, I have not loved another show. It is like crack, and it is so good. Like cinematography, music, acting, it deserves all the hype it gets. I can't wait for season 2. But basically, in the rabbit hole that I was in after watching Heated Rivalry for so many times, and I was just stuck in this loop where I just like rewatched it daily, I was like, hey, let's read the books. The books, the only saving grace I would give the books is the fact that they were written so that the show was made. So Rachel Reed did like a really good job coming up with these characters and the story, but I feel like the show took the material and made it 1,000 times better. It's more like dark and gritty. There's more depth to the characters. It's not just smut. Like you are so involved with the characters. So I love the show. It's like the one exception to where like the recreation is better than the source material. But yeah, so I read Heated Rivalry and The Long Game, which are the 2 books based on Shane and Ilya. I liked them because I already like the storyline, so I kind of read it with the perspective of I already know I'm going to like it because I like these characters and I envision them as they are in the show. So I went into it with that in my mind. So I think that informed my decision a bit. But yeah, I think it was good. It was like reading fan fiction. Yeah, I feel like these books were like fan fiction, and the show was a full-fledged show. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah. Then after that, I started getting into like thick, meaty books. I read Mistborn, got into freaking Brandon Sanderson, and I loved this. I think I read 30 pages of this, and I met my friend, and I spoke for half an hour about what happens in it. And so she said, oh great, so you're like halfway through it. I said, oh no, I'm 30 pages through it. Like the amount of world building in this, and oh my god, it's so good. 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 I love it. That's the only Brandon Sanderson book I've read. I'm currently reading Well of Ascension, which is the second part of this trilogy. But yeah, this is a chonky book, and it really is that good. And I didn't want to read it because the ending, if you know what happens, it's just like, why would you do that? Like, why would you do that to us? But he set it up for the next two books, so that's a good thing, I guess. But oh my god, it wrecked me. I didn't cry, but like emotionally, like I was gone. But yeah, great book. Then, oh shit, dropped a bunch of books. I read East of Eden. I think that has been my favorite book of the year. Like, nothing can top it. It's like after reading that, nothing else matters. Because it's the best piece of literature ever. Like, what do you mean that's not even his best novel? So now I have to read Grapes of Wrath, and there's so many other books that John Steinbeck wrote. But like East of Eden, oh my god, oh my god. The first part where the mom thinks that Charlie is the one who does everything, and she's just like, oh, he's not so bad, you know, like he actually leaves me little gifts here and there, and Adam just like closes his eyes. Oh my god, it broke me. I had visceral reactions to this book, and it like twisted my heart, and I hated characters. Like, I felt so much. Am I too high? I felt so much while reading this book. Insanely good. Like, yeah, like obviously it won prizes and shit. Actually, I think he won the prize for Grapes of Wrath and not for East of Eden. But East of Eden is that book. Like, he is him. That book, oh my god, so good. Yeah, so I read that, and oh, this list has just been like people recommending stuff and then me reading it 2 years later. So my best friend read Project Hail Mary with her book club a year and a half ago, and then she was like, hey Nuts, I think you'll really enjoy it. And I don't know, I just felt like I've read science fiction. Like, I love Dune, I read the first 3 books, loved them, right? I felt like it wasn't like that, so why would I like it? But then she went and watched the movie, and then she said, okay Nuts, you really have to watch the movie because it's so good. And then I said, okay, so if I'm gonna watch the movie, I might as well read the book. I read the book, and then I was like, I don't want to watch the movie. How can it do justice to it? Like, how will it do justice to this book? The book is so good. And then I watched the movie begrudgingly, but I did watch it. And then I was just like, fuck, this movie is so good. And now it's just like my For You page is just like everything to do with Rocky. And yeah, I just love it. I just love it. I love their connection. Who doesn't love it? It needs to win all the awards. It deserves all the awards. Ryan Gosling's best work so far. I mean, I liked La La Land, but this was something else. He carried the movie. How did he show compassion and chemistry with a puppet? Like, none of this was CGI. That's real acting right there. I don't know. Amazing. So I read Project Hail Mary, 5 stars, liked it a lot. Then I read A Prayer for the Crown Sky, which is the second part of the book series by Becky Chambers, which is Solar Punk. And this was the second book. The first book was A Psalm for a Good Living, A Psalm for the Living. Very nice. It's like you're reading this, but it's like a cup of warm tea. It's so beautiful. And I don't want to ruin it too much because If you liked Project Hail Mary, I feel like you would really like A Psalm for the Living, because it's the unlikely relationship between a human and a non-human, like a robot, but a robot that has consciousness. It's so good. It's A Psalm for the Living was definitely better than A Prayer for the Crown Sky. I didn't like it as much, but still a great book. Then I read The Creative Act, A Way of Being by Rick Rubin. I feel like this book was 400 pages and it could have been 200 pages. It was really good. In fact, I think just reading this book made me get out of a small rut, and I started like doing some gouache again and painting again just for fun, like it's nice because it talks about just doing art, because art exists in every form, like in baking, just in the way of our living, so art is so monumental to us. It's just so ingrained in us, and it's a very nice book, but it felt hella repetitive, and I feel like it could have been a 200-page book because it just reiterated the same things, but it was nice. That's what I did. Then I finished Small Things Like These. Oh, this was such a cute book. It was so good. It was so good. I really liked it. Yeah. It's exquisite because it's so touching, but you're very like distanced from the characters. You don't put yourself in their shoes, but this is a really good book, and it's so short. Like I think I finished it in a day. Really nice. Then I read 100 Years of Solitude. I made a vlog about it. It's the first book that I really wanted to talk about because every page made me think out loud, like what the hell am I reading? So yeah, I already, like, I guess if you're watching this, you probably already have watched that. So yeah, I liked it, but it's messy, not good, and then really good at the end. That's how I would describe this book. Then I read Tender is the Flesh. Loved it. Really disturbing, very nice. Then I read Swimming in the Dark. Again, I think these recent books are what I've mentioned in my recent vlogs, and then Nothing Personal and Phantoms in the Brain. So that's what I've read so far up till like 1st August. But I'm reading some really interesting books now. Like now that I've read those, I've read 15 books, which I'm really proud of myself. I had stopped reading last year and then I started reading again, so feels good. I'm currently reading The Count of Monte Cristo. I'm at the part where like he's sent to jail, and I feel like now it's gonna get really interesting because it's when he starts plotting everything. Does this book really need to be like 900 pages? Like, why is it so big? What do you have to say that requires 900 pages? Also, a really funny thing, I saw a Man Carrying Things video about The Count of Monte Cristo, and he said that someone else said that this is a gorgeous book that's awfully written. And it kind of makes sense. Like, I'm 50 pages through it, and it's like, it's a good book, but it's not wow. But okay, like I still need to like go through it. But yeah, I think that was really funny. So I'm currently reading that, and I'm halfway through Well of Ascension, which is the second book in the Mistborn series. So very excited to finish this and then read the third one. I think I want to read more of Brandon Sanderson because I'm in this like fiction kind of mode right now, and I'm gonna finish Count of Monte Cristo and Well of Ascension, and just here and there read about 2-3 plants and finish the history of the world in 100 plants. So that's that. Hope you guys had a nice July. Thank you for watching. Bye. Gazing into your eyes.